The wind in the Stone Valley area did not just blow, it sliced like a sharp knife. It brought dust that hurt the eyes and filled the air with a brown cloud. Spring had come on the calendar, but winter still controlled the ground. Snow lay thick in the deep holes, and the grass struggled to grow through the cold earth. Jack Mercer stood alone on his farm, pulling a metal fence tight under the gray sky. He was a strong man, made by hard times. His left shoulder hurt from an old gunshot wound, and every pull of the wire sent a sharp pain of his arm. He worked anyway. Labor was the only thing that quieted his mind. His land was rough and lonely, but it was his. A few thin cows ate grass near the small stream, fighting to live through the long winter. Jack lived the same way. He spoke to no one unless he had to, and when he rode into the nearest town, people looked at him like he was a problem. They spoke quietly about the man who had killed a fighter in the street. Even if the law called it self-defense, the bad mark never washed away. Jack didn't mind the quiet. He had lost too much already. His brother had been shot by a rich landowner's head worker, and the police had called it justice. Jack never forgot. He learned that men with money could change the rules any way they wanted, and men like him had to survive on their own. 30 miles away, a big wagon shook across the bumpy path toward Cold River. Inside sat Ilara Vance, holding a small box on her knees as the wheels jumped over every stone. She wore a blue dress that had once been nice, but long travel had made it thin. Her eyes stayed on the empty land outside the window. The size of the country scared her, yet it also felt like freedom she had never known. The other travelers whispered. They judged her. A woman alone, no ring on her finger, and a box that held everything she owned. Ilara heard their words even when they tried to hide them. The Vance girl, the one who stayed with Silas Thorne. They called her ruined. They called her taken. They didn't know the truth. Her father had lost everything in card games, and Silas Thorne, a powerful boss, had bought the debt. He bought her, too. Ilara had spent 2 years trapped in his house, living under his threats, trying to protect a father who still died drunk and freezing in a snow pile. When she found the letter Thorne hid from her, something inside her broke. She ran with only her mother's necklace and enough money to buy a ticket. She knew Thorne would hunt her. He hated losing his things. The wagon hit a deep hole. Ilara bumped into the wall, taking a sharp breath. A second later came a snap, the loud, clear sound of a gun. The horses screamed. The wagon turned sharply. "Get down!" someone shouted. "Another shot!" The large man across from Ilara jumped back, a red wound appearing on his head. Ilara screamed as the wagon flipped, wood breaking, dust exploding through the air. She felt pain cut through her leg, and then she was trapped under broken seats, the world spinning. Voices came from outside, rough voices, dangerous voices. Thorne said no people watching. Check the girl. If she can walk, bring her back. If not, take the head. Ilara's heart beat hard against her ribs. She tried to free her leg, but pain shot through her body, sharp and tearing. She froze when the door above her was pulled open. A man looked in with mean eyes and a dirty cloth over his face. "There she is," he said, "trapped like a rabbit." He grabbed her arm and pulled hard. Ilara's hand closed around a broken piece of wood. She hit his wrist with all her power. He yelled and let go. "Shoot her!" another man shouted. But before the gun could fire, a shot rang out across the valley, this one from far away. Then another. The men cursed. "Rider coming fast! Forget the girl! Thorne doesn't need to know!" Horse steps thundered away until silence crept back over the wreck. Ilara lay shaking, her breath thin and sharp. Her leg bled freely. She was alone, broken and fading. Then she heard another set of horse steps, steady, controlled. A shadow fell across the broken wagon. A man appeared at the torn door, framed by the cold sky. Wide shoulders, rough beard, a scar cutting through one eyebrow. Jack Mercer. He dropped inside the ruins, his boots stepping on the trash. When he saw Ilara, his eyes showed worry, not hunger. "Calm down," he said. His voice was low and firm. "I am not with them."
Alara wanted to answer, but she could barely breathe. Jack saw the blood on her leg, the sharp metal that had torn into her skin. "You are hurt bad," he said. I can walk," she whispered. She cried out and fell. Jack caught her before her head hit the floor, his strong arm behind her. "Don't move," he said firmly. "You will bleed too much." Wind shook the broken wood above them. Clouds rolled across the sky, heavy, dark, threatening snow. Jack looked at her again, fear in her eyes, blood soaking her dress, men hunting her. He made a choice. "My house is 2 miles north," he said. "I am taking you there." He picked her up in his arms. Alara gasped at the pain, holding his coat. Jack held her tight against his chest, steady and sure, and carried her out of the wreck into the coming storm. She didn't know him. He didn't know her, but fate had just tied their lives together. The storm hit hard as Jack rode toward his cabin with Alara held tight against him. The snow stung her cheeks, and every bump of the horse sent a sharp pain through her injured leg. She tried to stay awake, but the cold and shock pulled her down like deep water. Jack felt her grow heavier in his arms. Her head rested against his chest, and her breath came in quick, weak gasps. He leaned forward and tightened his hold around her, his arms forming a strong wall of heat against the freezing wind. "Stay with me," he whispered, though he wasn't sure she could hear him. By the time the cabin came into view, the world was white and fading. Jack jumped down from the saddle and lifted Alara into his arms, as if she weighed nothing at all. Her eyes opened for a second. Where are we?" she whispered. "Safe. You are safe now."
Inside the cabin, the air was cold but still. Jack kicked the door shut and carried her straight to the bed. He laid her down gently, but she cried out when her leg moved. "I know," he said quietly. "I know it hurts." He lit the oil lamp. Warm yellow light filled the small room, showing the torn dress, the blood-soaked cloth, and the deep fear in Ilada's eyes. He knelt beside the bed, rolling up his sleeves. His hands, big, scarred hands, shook slightly. He had sewed up cows, horses, even dug his own bullet out once. But touching a woman like this, it felt different, too close, too personal. "I have to clean the wound," he said. "It's the only way to stop the bleeding." Ilada nodded, though fear tightened every muscle in her body. Jack took his knife and paused only a moment before cutting through the torn dress. The cloth fell away, exposing her pale leg and the ugly, rough tear across it. Ilada turned her face toward the wall, shame burning hot beneath her skin. "I am sorry," Jack whispered. "I will be careful." He poured strong drink on a cloth. The smell filled the air, sharp and painful. When he pressed the wet cloth to her wound, Ilada gasped and tried to pull away, but Jack steadied her with one strong hand on her hip. "Easy," he said. I know it hurts." He worked quickly, cleaning away dirt and blood. His focus was tight, his forehead wrinkled. Ilada's breath caught with every touch. She waited for the change, the shift in a man's breathing she had learned to fear, the hunger, the meanness. But Jack's breathing stayed steady and controlled. And then it happened. Jack moved his weight on the uneven cabin floor. His boot slid. His hand jumped and slid somewhere it should not have. His hand touched her upper leg, higher than he ever planned to go, across soft skin no stranger should ever feel. His fingers rested there for half a second, dangerously close. Ilada froze. Jack froze. Time stopped. Ilada's eyes flew open wide with shock. The touch was accidental. She felt that it wasn't greedy or rough like Silas Thorne's, but it was warm, too warm. And for the smallest, most frightening moment, something inside her sparked with a heat she didn't understand. Jack pulled his hand back as if burned. I slipped," he stuttered, his voice cracked. "Ilada, I didn't mean—" His face turned red beneath the dirt and lamplight. He backed up so fast he almost knocked over the bowl. His shame filled the room thick as smoke. "I promise I didn't mean to touch you that way. I am not that sort of man." Ilada stared at him. She had known men who enjoyed her fear, men who smiled meanly when she shook. Jack looked like he wanted the earth to swallow him whole. "It is all right," she whispered, Her voice shook. "I know it was an accident." Jack swallowed hard, nodding as if he didn't believe he deserved her forgiveness. He forced himself to focus only on her wound, his hands working stiffly now, overly careful. He sewed her skin with quick, exact movements, keeping his eyes on the injury and nowhere else. "You are doing fine," he said softly as he tied the last knot. His voice was different now, gentler but tense. He wrapped her leg in clean cloths and pulled the blanket up to her chin to give her back her respect. When he stood, he backed away from the bed like it was a fire. "Try to sleep," he said. Ilara watched him walk to the far corner of the cabin, spreading a blanket on the floor. He lay down fully clothed, facing the door, as far from her as he could get in the small space. The lamp shone weak. "Jack, thank you," she whispered. He didn't turn his head. He didn't trust himself to. "Get some rest," he said. Ilara closed her eyes, her body aching, her heart beating with fear, confusion, and something else she didn't dare name. Outside, the storm howled. Inside, two strangers lay in the dark, separated by 6 feet of wooden floor and one accidental touch neither of them could forget. The storm outside finally faded, but neither Jack nor Ilara slept much that night. Every time the wind shook the window, Ilara woke up quickly, shaking from memories she couldn't escape. She dreamed of Thorne's hands, Thorne's voice, Thorne's cruelty. Near dawn, she sat up with a choked gasp. "No, no, please don't." Before she could think, Jack was beside the bed. He didn't touch her, but his deep voice cut through her panic. "Ilara, you're safe. I'm right here." She reached for him without seeing, grabbing his arm like a rope. Her fingers held to him hard enough to leave marks. Jack stayed still, letting her breathe in his calmness. Slowly, her shaking eased. "It was just a dream," he said softly. "Just a dream." But to Ilara, it never felt like just anything. When her breathing finally calmed, Jack returned to the floor. She heard him lie down again, but she knew he didn't sleep either. The cabin wasn't silent anymore. It was full of unsaid things. Morning brought cold sunlight in a sky strangely clear after the storm. Jack stepped outside early to fetch water and check on the cows. Ilara tried to sit up, but the pain in her leg made her gasp. Still, she managed to stand. She was halfway to the table when Jack walked back inside. "What are you doing?" he asked sharply. "I can walk." Ilara's leg gave out. She fell forward with a cry, and Jack caught her in his arms. For a breath, they were pressed together, her face against his chest, his arms locked around her waist, their bodies fitting too well in the tiny space. Ilara felt his heartbeat. Jack felt her warmth. Both froze. Her breath brushed his neck. His hold tightened without thinking. His eyes dropped to her lips. "Jack," she whispered. He nearly kissed her. He nearly forgot everything. But then he pulled away as if burned. He placed her back on the bed, his jaw tight. "You need to stay off that leg," he said roughly. "Do you want the cut opening up?" Ilara stared at him, cheeks red. She wasn't sure if the heat in her chest was shame or something else. Days passed. The cabin became too small for everything neither of them said. Jack worked outside until his hands bled, trying to silence the need inside him. Ilara watched him through the window, feeling something she had not felt in a long time: safety and wanting. At night, when Jack changed her bandages, the air grew tight. Ilara tried to make it easier. "You have gentle hands," she whispered once. Jack went stiff, eyes locked on the bandage. "I have farmer hands, nothing gentle about them." Ilara shook her head. "I know what cruel hands feel like. Yours aren't cruel." He didn't answer. He almost ran from the cabin. But danger was already closing in. 3 days later, their world caught fire. The smell of smoke hit first, then an orange glow lit the western sky. Jack burst out the door with a curse. "Fire! They're burning us out! Thorne's men!" Ilara didn't think. She ran after Jack with wet cloth sacks. The flames roared like a living animal, eating its way across the grass toward the cabin. "Stay back!" Jack shouted. "I'm helping!" They fought the fire side by side, beating at the flames with soaked sacks. Smoke filled their lungs. Heat burned their skin. Alara's leg throbbed with every step, but she refused to stop. This was Jack's land, Jack's home, and now hers too, though she didn't dare say it. When the wind finally shifted, the fire died down, leaving the land black and ruined. Alara fell down, coughing. Jack picked her up in his arms and carried her to the water tank. Their faces were inches apart. Ash covered their skin. His hands shook as he looked her over. "Alara, are you hurt? Tell me, are you burned?" "No," she gasped. I'm all right." Jack's chest moved heavy. His eyes were wild. "I thought I lost you," he whispered. Then something inside him broke. He grabbed her face in his hands and kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't careful. It was born of fire and fear. Rough at first, desperate with relief. Alara answered the kiss with the same hunger, her hands holding his shirt, pulling him closer. Jack softened, his lips moving slower, deeper, full of everything he had tried to hold back. "Jack!" she breathed. He carried her inside. He laid her on the bed, their bodies tangled in the dim red light of the stove. His hands moved over her sides, her fingers mixed in his hair, their breaths mixed, their hearts pounded. He wanted her. She wanted him. He hung over her, shaking, lost in her warmth. "Take me," Alara whispered. Jack closed his eyes tight, fighting himself. His breath shook. "I want you," he said, voice raw. "God, Alara, I want you more than anything." "Then don't stop." But he did. He used his arms to pull back just enough to see her face. "Not like this. Not in fear. Not because we almost died. I won't touch you like Thorn did. I want to love you in the daylight, when you're safe, when you know I'm choosing you." Her eyes filled with tears. No one had ever stopped for her. No one had ever protected her soul. "You're not like them," she whispered. He lay beside her, pulling her into his arms. She cried quietly into his chest until sleep finally claimed them both. The fire had been no accident. The next morning, Jack found 3 cows shot dead and a burnt piece of leather stamped with Thorn's mark. Alara stood beside him, cold fear twisting through her stomach. "He'll keep coming," she whispered. Jack nodded. Something hardened in his eyes, a quiet, dangerous will. "We're not running anymore," he said. "Pack your things. We're going to town to face Thorn." "To end this," she breathed. "To end this," Jack answered. Alara took his hand. "Then we go together." Side by side, they rode toward Cold River, toward danger, judgment, and the man who wanted Alara dead. But this time, she wasn't running. She had Jack, and Jack would burn the world down before he let anyone take her.